your 2014 champion, Stephanie Howe.
Brian Powell of I Run Far here with Dylan Bowman before the 2015 Western States 100. How you doing, Dylan?
Good to be back.
You are back. This is what, your fourth time here? Or
Fourth in a row. Yeah.
Fourth in a row.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps you coming back?
It's Western States. Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite race in the world, and it's the highlight of every season for me. It's my #1 goal every year, and it gets me excited, and that hasn't changed for the last 4 years, so I figured give it one more shot.
Yeah? What is it what is it about Western States that gets you so amped up?
Well, I mean, as you know, I'm a fan of sports. I'm a student of the game. I appreciate the history. And this is the race you sort of learn about first when you enter the sport, and for that reason, it's got a mystique that no other race has. And obviously, the competition's a huge component as well. I want to race well in the biggest races, and in my opinion, this is the greatest race in the world with very few rivals. So, yeah, it's a very attractive race, and it's easy to find excuses to keep coming back.
Yeah, you've had an incredible spring. I mean, your wins at Tarawera and North Face 100, like, you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I feel great. Both races went about as well as I possibly could have imagined. Particularly the North Face 100, I was really happy with that race. And yeah, it's helped from a confidence perspective. I've actually raced less this year coming into Western States, which I think is going to be beneficial, and the 2 races I have done have gone really well. So I'm on the right track, judging from my training last year as it compares to this year. I'm a better runner now, and the racing has reflected that, and so I just hope I'll be able to capitalize on that on Saturday.
So you've improved your fitness. Has your ultra running IQ and experience and confidence increased over the years? Because I know you've sort of changed your strategy over the years, that you can kind of look and say, I want to win this year, and I'm going to make that my goal.
Yeah, I mean, 100% the IQ component has evolved over time. I mean, I remember my first time here, I got in at Leona Divide last minute, and I came in with the mindset that I'm just going to go for it. This may be my only time that I'll be able to run Western States. I was, I think, 25 years old, and I blew up hard, and I still managed to, stay in the top 10, which is, allowed me to have this streak of races here. But that was a huge learning opportunity for me. And because of that race, really, I don't race that way ever anymore. And, to your point about, whether or not I can contend this year, that's, obviously something I would love, but isn't going to be at the front of my mind during race day. I have a particular style that I like to race. I have a particular strategy that I like to employ. And so, if I'm in contention, that'd be great. I'll do everything I can to be in that position. But if it doesn't work, I'll be happy as long as I give it my best shot.
Awesome. You did have one bump along the road to Western States. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I had a little bout of heat exhaustion. It happened in a little local race in Marin, 25K. And effectively what happened was I just blacked out somewhere like about a mile from the finish line. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but they found me about a mile from the finish line. And it was an exertional thing. It wasn't, it was, maybe 75 degrees in Marin. It wasn't particularly hot. But it was more of an issue of me revving my engine hotter than it wanted to go at that point. But it was really scary. But to be honest, I think it may have been a really good thing when it comes to Western States. Before TNF Australia, I really only had 5 weeks of training because I had to take a few weeks off from the heat stroke incident. So having only 5 weeks of training and then having maybe my best race ever, I think having the forced break might end up being a positive, because I think a lot of people who get in the Western States either last year or early in the season tend to show up maybe a little bit overcooked.
And that could have been a case with you because you already raced well in early February.
I was in great shape when it happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for that reason, it could be a fortunate thing, although it was incredibly scary and incredibly expensive. I have it. It'll be sort of in the back of my mind, but I'll be focusing on keeping cool.
Yeah.
Next day.
At TNF Australia, you beat Francois Dehaene, and he's kind of a benchmark, especially at the 100-mile distance right now. World, globally, he's maybe the best. And how does that leave you? Did that sort of change your confidence a whole nother level?
Well, yeah, and I got to know Francois a little bit at the race, and he's a great guy and obviously an incredible athlete. You're right. I mean, he's a 100-mile master. Last year he was untouchable, and I have a lot of respect for him. At Australia, he was coming in with a bit of a foot issue. It was his first race of the season. It's not necessarily a course that fits his style. So, I wasn't necessarily all that surprised that he didn't have a dominant performance there. I'm sure, being the professional that he is, that he'll approach this. And like he's done the appropriate training, I think, in the last 5 or 6 weeks since that race. So I'm sure he's going to be a factor on race day. But yeah, the race in Australia was huge for my confidence. And,
We have 9 of last year's top 10 back, with Max King being the lone exception. Who do you think stands the best chance to really surprise out of that group, to move up?
Man, that's a good question. Out of the top 10 from last year, I think Varner, definitely. A guy who could easily be on the podium, and I think a guy who could actually win the race. Ryan Sands last year, 5th place, which for anybody else is fantastic. For him, he was definitely a little tired coming into the race, and it may have showed a little bit.
Have you run with Varner since the IAU World Championships a couple
We
of
haven't really run together all that much, mostly because of our racing schedules have been totally opposite, with Sonoma, and then I was in Australia, and then he was in France. But, we hang out a lot, and, I follow him on Strava. So I know this is a big goal of his, and I'm sure he'll have a good day.
Nice. The heat is going to be a factor. There's not a whole lot of heat in the Bay Area. Have you been prepping for it?
Yeah, I have. I've been in the sauna the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's effectively it, though. I haven't had any particularly warm days where I can get out and exercise in the heat. But the sauna really helped last year, and it looks like the weather will be similar to last year. And then, I have a strategy that I'll employ for cooling. I think I'm going to wear some arm sleeves and just keep them wet and shove ice in there. But the thing about Western States too is that a lot of it is shaded. So if you're able to keep yourself wet, the heat's not all that noticeable on race day. Obviously 2013 was really exceptionally hot.
And a week ago it was looking like this year could be on par with that, but it's definitely, the forecasts have retrograded a bit.
Yeah, I just looked at like a couple hours ago, and it looked like 90 degrees in Auburn.
That's
Quite
a seasonable day. It's a nice day for Western States.
And I think that was about what it was last year. So I'm not really all that worried about the heat, even with the little episode I had earlier in the spring. But obviously it does help to keep yourself cool, so I'll focus on that.
Did you, aside from building and improving your fitness for this year, is there anything that you'll change heading into this year that you think might, move you up a little bit, and whether it's time or position or just self-judged performance?
To be honest, I'm not going to change all that much. I'm the type of runner where I'd like to be somewhere in the mix, but not at the front early. And then just kind of stay there as long as I can, and hopefully, you know, somewhere in the latter half of the race, start to move up in the field. From a nutritional perspective, I've evolved that a little bit.
How so?
Just incorporating other products. You know, the new Cliff organic food things with the sweet potato packets. I was eating sweet potatoes just out of a bag last year. Yeah. So I'll use that, and also they're like banana, mango, coconut, and beet, banana, little whole food things.
Gotcha.
I'll use those, and then in the second half, you know, probably rely mostly on the gels.
So you do. I mean, it's not solid food, but you do some that's not
some
just gel and liquid.
Yeah, but it's mostly gel, liquid. But I'll have at least a few of those things that I mentioned. But for the most part, I plan to run the same race I've run all 3 years I've been here, and I'll just hope that it ends up being a little bit faster. And I have ideas where I can go a little bit faster, but you know, I'll just try and run the best race I can.
All right, well, Dylan, best of luck out there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.